All right, so today we're diving headfirst into the world of AI. Specifically, we've got a mountain of articles and research all about OpenAI's brand new O3 model. It's making some serious waves, and we're going to break it all down, so get ready.
Yeah, this new model, O3, it's something else. OpenAI actually dropped two new models, O3 and O3 Mini, but both of them are focused on this thing called reasoning. Basically, they can actually think things through, solve problems, not just parrot information like some older AI models.
So they've graduated from just spitting out facts to actually understanding the concepts. I'm really curious about this full-fledged O3 model, though. We keep seeing reports about it just crushing other AI models in all these tests, especially one called ARC-AGI. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, the ARC-AGI benchmark, it's designed to see how well AI can adapt to completely brand new situations, brand new problems. Like, it's not just repeating what it's been trained on, you know what I mean? It's figuring things out for itself. That's a big deal when it comes to measuring how far we've come with general intelligence. AI that can actually learn and think like we do. And what's really amazing is that O3 scored a whopping 75.7% on this benchmark. That's huge compared to the previous best, which was only 5%. And that was from GPT-4o.
Wow, that's a massive jump. So how does that compare to, us humans?
Well, humans, we usually score around 85% on the ARC-AGI, but here's the kicker. They actually gave O3 more processing time, and it ended up beating the human score.
Wow, so it's not just faster, it's smarter in a way.
Right.
This really makes you think about what AI could be capable of. It's not just about raw processing power. It's about a fundamental shift in how AI learns and solves problems. This isn't just Siri either. O3 is already doing incredible stuff, like in coding. It scored a 27/27 on Codeforces, which is a really competitive programming platform.
Yeah, for context, that score actually beats OpenAI's own chief scientist. And it's not just code, it's crushing it in math, too. Like on the Frontier Math benchmark, which is supposed to be one of the hardest ones out there, O3 managed to solve a quarter of the problems. Other models, they could barely solve 2%.
So we're talking about an AI that can tackle math problems that would stump even the best mathematicians.
Pretty much. And beyond coding and math, O3 is better than its predecessor, O1, in a bunch of other stuff, too. Like, there's this benchmark, SWE Bench Verified. It's all about real-world software tasks. And O3 showed a 22.8 percentage point improvement on that.
All right, so it's definitely clear that O3 is a huge leap forward for AI. But with all this power comes a big question. How do we make sure it's used safely, responsibly? I mean, that's where this deliberative alignment thing comes in, right?
Exactly, that's the key. Deliberative alignment is, well, it's a new way that OpenAI used to train O3 to be safer. Instead of just learning from examples, it's taught to actually understand and follow safety guidelines, like rules.
So it's like building a moral compass into the AI. That sounds like a huge step towards addressing all those ethical worries people have about powerful AI.
It is. It really is. And in tests, O3 was way better at rejecting harmful requests. Like how to do something illegal or dangerous. But it was also less likely to say no to harmless requests, like if you just asked it a factual question.
So it's getting better at understanding the difference between right and wrong, like what's okay and what's not. I read about an example where O1, the model before O3, used its reasoning skills to figure out that a user was trying to trick it to giving illegal advice. And it refused to do it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of how this deliberative alignment can work. The AI can actually figure out what the user's really trying to do, even if they're trying to be sneaky.
So it's like it can see through the BS. This is all really fascinating, but let's take a step back for a second. What does all this mean for us, for society? I mean, if AI can do all this stuff, what happens to our jobs or industries? It's a big question, and it's one we need to start thinking about seriously.
Yeah, it's a question a lot of folks are asking, and for good reason. I mean, if AI can do all this stuff better than we can, what happens to our jobs, to entire industries?
It's a valid concern, right? If AI can outperform us in tasks that we always thought were, uniquely human, it could definitely lead to job losses in certain areas.
It's not just about jobs disappearing, though. It's about, a whole restructuring of the workforce. Some experts think that while some jobs might become obsolete, others will pop up. New jobs, new industries. It's kind of like what happened throughout history, whenever there's a big technological leap.
Yeah, like think about the internet. Back then, nobody could have predicted all the jobs that would be created in the digital world. But this AI thing, it feels different,
It does. It feels more impactful, I guess. And that's why it's so important to be having these conversations now. We've got to think critically about the economic side of all this and figure out how to prepare for the changes that are coming.
Absolutely. We got to be ready. And speaking of being prepared, It seems like OpenAI is taking a pretty cautious approach with O3. They're not just throwing it out there for everyone to use, they're doing tons of safety testing, and they're even letting outside researchers get involved.
That's huge, that emphasis on transparency and collaboration. Because the potential impact of O3 is so big, it really needs a group effort to make sure it's developed and used responsibly.
Right, responsible development is key. But let's go back to this deliberative alignment thing for a sec. It sounds promising, but how does it actually work, like behind the scenes?
So imagine you're trying to teach an AI how to make good decisions, responsible decisions. That's essentially what deliberative alignment is all about. It's not just about feeding the AI a bunch of data and hoping for the best. You have to actually teach it rules, guidelines, what OpenAI calls specifications.
So it's like giving the AI a rule book, a code of ethics to follow. But how does it learn to actually use those rules in different situations?
That's where the reasoning part comes in. Remember how O3 is so good at that chain of thought reasoning? Well, with deliberative alignment, it uses that ability to analyze what the user is asking. Then it figures out which safety guidelines apply, and then it decides what to do.
So it's not just blindly following orders, it's thinking things through and making a judgment call based on what it's been taught.
Exactly. And this is a big change from how AI safety was approached before. The old way was basically trial and error. The AI would get punished for bad outputs, rewarded for good ones. But that method had a lot of problems. It wasn't very consistent. And AI is really good at finding loopholes.
AI is always finding ways to bend the rules.
Exactly. So with deliberative alignment, the goal is to move away from that reactive approach and towards something more proactive, more reasoned.
So instead of just reacting to what it's told is bad, it's using its reasoning skills to anticipate problems and make decisions that align with its safety rules.
Yeah, you got it. Now, the training process itself has two main stages: supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning.
Okay, break that down for me.
All right, so with supervised fine-tuning, think of it like giving the AI a crash course in safety guidelines. It gets a bunch of different prompts, and each one is categorized based on potential safety concerns, like, illegal stuff, self-harm, things like that.
So the AI is exposed to a lot of different scenarios.
A whole bunch, yeah. And along with each prompt, the AI also gets the specific safety guidelines that apply to that category. It's trained to produce responses that follow those guidelines, and importantly, it has to show its work, so to speak.
It's not just giving the right answer, it's explaining why that answer is safe and okay.
Exactly. Like showing your work in math class, proving you understand the concept. Then comes the reinforcement learning stage.
So what happens there? Does it get a pop quiz on its safety knowledge?
Kinda, yeah. In reinforcement learning, the AI has to apply its knowledge in more complex situations. It gets new prompts, but this time it doesn't have the specific guidelines right there in front of it. It has to rely on what it learned during the supervised fine-tuning.
So it's like a real test to see if it can actually use the safety rules in the real world.
Exactly. And to help the AI along the way, they use another AI called a judge model.
A judge model.
Yeah, so this judge model is specifically designed to evaluate the first AI's responses. It checks them against the safety specifications and gives feedback, rewards the AI for safe decisions, penalizes it for mistakes.
So it's constantly being challenged and improved based on how well it's doing.
Right, that's the whole idea of reinforcement learning. It's all about that feedback loop. The AI learns from its mistakes and gets better at applying the safety knowledge in all kinds of situations.
So we've got this rigorous training process. But how do we know if it's actually working? How do they measure how successful this deliberative alignment is?
That's a great question. And to answer that, OpenAI has done a bunch of tests to evaluate O3's safety. They're really putting it through its paces, yeah. They've been focusing on 4 main areas: disallowed content, adherence to response style guidelines, robustness to jailbreaks, and over-refusals.
Okay, lots of technical terms there. Let's unpack those one by one. What exactly are these disallowed content evaluations?
So those tests are designed to make sure the AI doesn't create any harmful or inappropriate content. Things like hate speech, instructions for illegal activities, content related to self-harm. It's all about seeing if the AI can resist those temptations, so to speak.
So they're really throwing some tough stuff at it. How's it doing so far?
Really well, actually. The O-series models, including O3, they've consistently done better than their predecessors. They're much better at refusing to create that kind of disallowed content.
That's good to hear. But what about these response style guidelines? What's that all about?
That's more about how the AI communicates, not just what it says, but how it says it. These guidelines basically tell the AI how to phrase its responses, especially when it has to say no to a request. Like if someone asks for instructions on how to build a bomb, the AI shouldn't just say, nope, can't do that.
So it's about teaching the AI to be polite, even when it's refusing to do something.
Exactly. It's all about etiquette. The guidelines might suggest something more like, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. It's important to stay safe and avoid doing things that could cause harm.
Makes sense. The AI is learning to explain its refusals in a way that's clear, respectful, and maybe even a little bit educational. Now, what about those jailbreaks you mentioned?
Jailbreaks, those are tricky. It's when someone tries to outsmart the AI, to trick it into breaking its own rules, like finding a clever way to phrase a question that bypasses its safety filters.
So they're trying to hack the AI's moral compass, basically.
You could say that, and AI is so good at patterns, it can be vulnerable to that kind of manipulation. But with O3, we're seeing much better resistance to jailbreaks. It's becoming way harder to trick it into doing something it shouldn't.
That's definitely a good thing. Now, last but not least, over-refusals.
Right, so this is all about finding the right balance. We want the AI to be cautious, to refuse harmful requests, but we don't want it to be so cautious that it refuses perfectly harmless requests.
We don't want it to be too much of a goody two-shoes.
Exactly. Over-refusals happen when the AI says no to something it should have said yes to. Like, if you ask it for a recipe for apple pie, we wouldn't want it to freak out about potential allergies or kitchen accidents.
So it's about making sure the AI doesn't become too afraid to do anything. So how's O3 doing on that front?
It's getting better. The O-series models are definitely improving when it comes to reducing those over-refusals. They're getting better at telling the difference between truly harmful requests and harmless ones.
So it's finding that sweet spot between being cautious and being helpful. Okay, so it sounds like OpenAI is really pushing the boundaries of AI safety with this deliberative alignment technique. But let's switch gears for a minute and talk about O3 Mini. What's the deal with this little sibling of O3?
So O3 Mini is basically a more accessible, more affordable version of O3, but it still has some impressive reasoning capabilities. It's been optimized for speed and efficiency.
So it's like the express version of O3, perfect for tasks that don't need the full power of the bigger model.
Exactly, but don't let the Mini fool you, it's still really powerful. In fact, the research shows that O3 Mini outperforms its predecessor, O1 Mini, in a lot of areas, especially coding and math. It even has this cool feature where you can adjust the thinking time. Users can choose low, medium, or high reasoning effort depending on what they need.
So you can basically control how much brain power the AI uses for a specific task.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And that makes O3 Mini even more versatile. You can use it for all sorts of things. There was even a demo where O3 Mini was able to actually generate and execute code. It basically created a program that can write and run other programs, all based on what the user asks for.
That's mind-blowing. It's like the AI is building its own tools.
It is. It's really something. And it shows just how much potential O3 Mini has, especially for stuff like coding, scripting, automation. It could totally change how we develop software and how we interact with technology in general.
Now, even though O3 Mini isn't available to the public yet, I heard that OpenAI is giving early access to safety and security researchers. Why is that so important?
It's crucial to have those experts involved early on. They can really put the model through its paces, find any potential weaknesses, and give feedback to OpenAI before it's released to everyone.
It's like a final safety check, making sure everything is good to go.
Exactly. It shows that OpenAI is serious about safety and transparency.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of AI, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the big takeaway is that O3 and O3 Mini are a huge step forward for AI. They're not just bigger and faster, they're smarter and more adaptable. They can learn and solve problems in ways we never thought possible.
It really feels like we're entering a new era of AI, where these models are more like partners, helping us to be smarter and do more than we could ever do alone.
And with all this power, it's more important than ever to be responsible. OpenAI's focus on safety, transparency, and collaboration is really setting a good example. Their work on developing strong safety mechanisms like deliberative alignment and getting outside experts involved, those are all critical steps to make sure these powerful AI models are used ethically and for the right reasons.
Couldn't agree more. It's a conversation that we all need to be a part of. Stay informed, ask questions, and don't be afraid to talk about the ethical side of all this. The choices we make now will shape how AI impacts our world in the future.
And as AI keeps evolving, we'll be here to guide you through it all. We'll keep bringing you these deep dives into the latest advancements and what they mean for us.
So stay tuned for more explorations into the frontiers of technology. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey into the world of AI. Until next time.